Welcome into Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thank you so much for tuning in here on Monday, January 6th. Trent Baalke is back, folks. He's back. Jaguars general manager. He was able to survive once again. He's going to have his third head coach in Jacksonville in 5 years. He's also going to have his third top 5 pick for the Jaguars in 5 years. I disagree with a lot of things Trent Baalke has done. I disagree with the process that he typically implements. I don't think that he has great leadership, relationship management. I think some of these things are lacking when it comes to throughout the building. But that's the way Shad Khan played his hand this time around. And Shad Khan has routinely decided not to completely clean house. He's taken half measures a lot more often than not during his time as the Jacksonville Jaguars owner. And while that does suck for, all the fans who were really hoping for a clean sweep, hoping to have a path forward where you could have a head coach and a GM come in together with a clear, unified vision, and that doesn't look like it's going to happen now at this point, you can start to have some indications of how things might go from a roster building standpoint, because Trent Baalke's back. We've seen what he does during his time in Jacksonville and San Francisco from a talent standpoint. I do believe, for all his faults, and I don't think he should be the Jaguars general manager, I do think he has put together a winning roster. A roster that should at least be 500, a roster that should be competing for the playoffs every year. And, the 2 years prior, they were just about exactly that, 9-8, right? Competing for the playoffs in the final week of the season. But I think with the resources spent over the last several years, both in the draft and with free agency, like the unlimited budget that free agency spending is not created equally among all teams, right? Like if you have an owner that is willing to get creative and spend more money, you can really massage the cap. And Shad Khan has allowed Trent Baalke to spend. The Jaguars are routinely at the top of the list when it comes to free agent spending. And they also are routinely at the top when it comes to draft resources. And they should be better than they are. And I'm not saying they should be better than the record they had this year. Obviously, they should be. Again, I think that they're like a 500 to 10 win team, right? But they are not a team that I think can go toe-to-toe with the Chiefs or the Ravens or the Bills in the playoffs. I think if they made the playoffs and had to play one of those teams right now, they'd probably get smoked. But I do think that they had a poor coaching job this year. I don't think that Doug did a very good job to the last couple years. I really don't. Who will be coaching up the talent? I don't know. I doubt it's going to be one of these names people are fired up about, like Ben Johnson. I know Johnson has a couple interviews already lined up, not with the Jaguars, but I look at this job. I still think it's possible that, a good offensive mind says, hey, do I want to hitch my wagon to Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas Jr.? Yeah, I do. I could still see that. So we'll see how it plays out. A lot yet to be determined, but we do know Jaguars are picking at 5 overall. That's locked in now. Trent Baalke has had movement in each of the last 3 drafts within the first round, whether it's trading down or trading back up. So that's where they're at. Locked in at 5 as of this moment. I'm expecting 2 quarterbacks to go before that. I would not advise these teams to take quarterbacks at the top this year. I don't think that those quarterbacks are of that caliber. You're really going to have to surround them with great infrastructure and foundation to get the best you possibly can out of them. They both have the potential to be starters. I think Shedeur Sanders, maybe more limited upside, but certainly can be a starter in this league. Cam Ward, a lot of upside, but a lot of question marks as well. So I just don't see either of those guys as elite prospects. But I expect 2 quarterbacks to go. I also expect Travis Hunter to come off the board. He's a singular one-of-one type of prospect, and I expect Abdul Carter, who has just unbelievable traits and production this past year, to come off the board as well. I don't think Mason Graham will be the pick for the Jaguars. He doesn't have the all-world length that Trent Baalke generally looks for at the top, but as much as I would like Mason Graham in Jacksonville, I think he's going to say, hey, I drafted Mason Smith in the 2nd round last year. He came on towards the end of the season. I went and signed Eric Armstead to be a defensive tackle. he's going to be a defensive tackle for us this year. Eric Armstead confirmed in open locker room earlier today that he's going to be playing defensive tackle next year. So you got two big-time interior defensive linemen. You've also got Devon Hamilton. You've also got Jordan Jefferson, who you drafted in the 4th round last year. A couple other role players that you can feel decent about. Tyler Lacey. Asezi maybe. Otomewo. Obviously Jeremiah Ledbetter had a good year. So I think that he's going to say, look, we're pretty darn talented across the defensive front, especially you signed Josh Hines Allen this past offseason, and Trayvon Walker's he might be up for a contract right now, right? Coming off his 3rd year in the league. I think that Trent Baalke's probably going to sign him to an extension this offseason. Continue to try to bolster that pickup. And shout out to Trayvon for getting back-to-back years, double-digit sacks. That's huge for him. Huge for him. I think the arrow is still pointing up for Trayvon Walker, certainly. And he's playing some pretty good football. If I had to predict right now, which that's what we're doing here on Mock Draft Monday, I think he would go Will Johnson. He hasn't used a first on a cornerback in Jacksonville. It is a clear need right now, opposite Tyson Campbell. Will Johnson is prototypical. Size, length, athleticism, physicality. He has everything. And even though he's a Michigan guy and, Trent Baalke, Jim Harbaugh, not the best relationship, I think that Will Johnson would be the pick right now if I had to guess. I think he's a blue chip talent as long as we can see him get out there and show off his athleticism a little bit this offseason. Ended the year with a foot injury, so you'd like to see in the pre-draft lead-up him able to go out and do some athletic field work, whether it's the testing or just seeing him out there on the field. But I could also see Baalke wanting to trade down. I don't know if there would be anybody trying to move up to 5 in this situation. Don't know how that would look. But if Siobhan Ravel was healthy, I could see him being interested in him at 5. I just don't think you can take a guy coming off of ACL that high. I don't see that. But I think with his length, athleticism, speed, height, Trent Baalke would definitely be interested in Ravel as a corner. That's kind of what he does, is goes and gets those guys that have the freaky traits. I don't know that anyone would trade down again or want to trade up to 5, but I think that if Baalke had his druthers, he probably would trade down, acquire some more draft capital, and then take the best corner available, which I think he would look at as Ravel. I think he might have Ravel ahead of Johnson, again, all things being equal, if Ravel was healthy. So, Will Johnson at 5. I think that makes a lot of sense for this football team. And I also think, again, looking back, Trent Baalke has made a move in the first round in the last 3 years. I would expect him to continue to try to do so. I have him trading back up into the first from 36 overall. If Tyler Booker falls into the mid-20s, I could see Trent Baalke moving up for him because he is a freak. All world length. I think he has a 7-foot wingspan. He's a leader. He's a tough guy. The Jaguars are going to need a right guard in all likelihood with Brandon Sheriff's contract expiring and him obviously being up there in age. He'll bring that physicality that Baalke is looking for, that length that Baalke is looking for. He's a young player as well, a young prospect coming out. Tyler Booker out of Alabama plugging in at right guard. You've got him, and now I think you have a pretty complete offensive line heading into 2025. I expect Trent Baalke to make some moves in the offseason, but he always leaves, or at least the last couple years, you've been able to look at this roster and say, hey, they really need X position. That's probably where they're going to go early in the draft. You could say that about offensive tackle. You could say that about wide receiver last year, right? Even though they signed Gabe Davis, they had Christian Kirk, they did not have another outside receiver, right? And Brian Thomas Jr. was that guy for them. The year before that, Jawan Taylor moved on. They needed a right tackle. They went and got Anton Harrison. So that's kind of how they've been operating the last couple years, and I think that Baalke will probably not go out and sign anybody big at corner, and you'll look at that and say that's probably where they're going to go. They would have done that this past year had they been able to re-sign Calvin Ridley. They would have, in all likelihood, selected Terrion Arnold at corner. So that's where I have them going, and then going and getting that guard in the back end of the first if he's able to fall to the mid-20s. Say you trade up to 25, 26, 27, somewhere in that range to go get Tyler Booker. I think that would make a lot of sense for a Trent Baalke-led team. And then I think at 92, taking a running back like Nick Singleton, who I know Trent Baalke drafted Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby. You need obviously a platoon in your backfield. Travis Etienne is going into the final year of his contract. He has struggled with consistency. Tank Bigsby has struggled with ball security. Both of them struggle in pass protection. You bring in Nick Singleton, who is great in pass protection. He is a great receiver out of the backfield. He is tough. He is explosive. He's over 220 pounds. He's probably going to run in the 4.4s. He makes sense as a Trent Baalke type of running back that can come in and probably take a lot of snaps away from those two because of ball security, because of being able to protect your quarterback and catch the ball out of the back, but being a more complete back than either of those guys are right now. And then at 106, I have the Jaguars going after a safety here, Kamari Ramsey out of USC. I think he should be off the board, but this is a deep safety class. It's a talented safety class. I think that Trent Baalke and the Jaguars probably will spend on a safety this offseason, but they've got a lot of work to do in that room. And I know Darnell Savage will still be there. Antonio Johnson's a young guy that has shown some flashes here and there of being able to develop, but I still think he has a ways to go. I think they need to reshape that safety room in a big way. I think they're probably going to sign someone. I could see them signing a Justin Reed, Javon Holland. I think that they'll probably be a team that's probably, and we don't know who's going to be coaching, so this is all just conjecture at this point, but probably more too high shell and probably more split zone coverage versus, single high cover one. Kamari Ramsey makes a lot of sense out of USC as either a box safety or, again, a split safety. You're not going to have him as a true free safety, but pretty much every other role you could ask for. He's instinctive, big hitter, violent, very smart, reads the game well. I think Kamari Ramsey would be a good pick there, and I think it falls in line with what I have the Jaguars doing this offseason. And I think the Jaguars will probably sign. I think Trent Baalke will probably say, look, I know I screwed up the last couple years. I really need to sign a third edge. And I think they will. But I think they'll also draft one in a Jared Ivey, who I've plugged into the Jaguars a lot here, even without knowing if Trent Baalke would be back. Now that Trent Baalke we know is going to be back, Jared Ivey absolutely lines up with the type of player he looks for on the edge. He's big, he is long, he is tall, he's strong, he's got great athleticism for his size. I could see that making a lot of sense. And then this one I think the Jaguars will look for a long-term backup of the future at quarterback. I think that Curtis Rourke, playing all season with a torn ACL, I think that Trent Baalke could be like, yeah, that's my type of guy. Let's bring him in and see if he can be our long-term backup for Trevor Lawrence. So I kind of plugged him in there out of Indiana. At 181, I have tight end Luke Lachey. Another one of these Iowa tight ends that kind of gets overlooked. Hasn't had the most productive last couple years. Iowa's passing offense has been atrocious, but he's big, physical, good athlete, strong hands. I think that he could be a kind of diamond in the rough there and fit a Trent Baalke prototype. And also, when you look at the tight end position, I would guess that Trent Baalke would want to bring Evan Ingram back as one of his guys that he's probably, I went and signed Evan Ingram and he's been having career years here in Jacksonville. Like, look at me, I did great, right? But Luke Farrell is a Trent Baalke draft pick, but he's up for a new contract. So do they re-sign Luke Farrell? If not, I think Luke Lachey could make a lot of sense out of Iowa. And then at 193, I do have them adding some depth to the wide receiver room and wide receiver Pat Bryant, who is a local guy. I think they do like to give local guys looks. They will get, whether it's local pro day or just having him on the pre-draft process, that circuit, I think that Pat Bryant will have some interest from them. And he is 6'3", almost 200 pounds, or right around 200 pounds. He's was really productive for Illinois this year. I think he has some long striding speed. I think that he has reliable hands. He has some catch point skills. So that would be a pick I could see Trent Baalke kind of throwing a late round flyer on a local kid and seeing if they can hit on that. So that's where I'm at right now. In this Monday, January 6th, Jaguars 7-round mock draft went with Trent Baalke leading things once again. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. Let me know what you think about Trent Baalke being retained. Really appreciate you supporting the channel. If you want to pick up some new Duval gear, check out ginjag.com/shop. pick up a hat like I'm wearing right now. Got a lot of other fun stuff on the site, hats, t-shirts, all that good stuff. ginjag.com/shop. Please like and subscribe. Y'all have a good one.